Hello and welcome to Easy Like a Sunday Morn. I'm your host, Shane Lockwood, and this is episode 42. It is the 8th of February 2015, and I want to say thank you to everybody who tunes in each and every week, and to those who are listening for the very first time. This show has been on a 2-week hiatus, and that was unintentional. I could claim that it was intentional and that I needed a break or whatever, but no, I simply have just pre-recorded a show, and it was the best show I've ever done. And wouldn't you know it, the laptop is still spinning and trying to record. It's finished recording, but it's trying to process, because I said, look, I want to play that back, and then I want to save it, and then I want to extract it, and then I want to upload it, so my Spreaker fans and YouTube fans and iHeartRadio fans can listen to this fantastic podcast. Anyway, it's still spinning, and that little laptop has bitten the dust pretty much. I've got a Chromebook which has got a limited power, but we're digressing. So this is I'm recording this through the Spreaker console app rather than going through Audacity, so I can't actually remix or put special effects or things like that until I figure out how to do that properly, and I don't know how to do that on this, but that's why there's no theme music and stuff like that. But for those of you who are brand new to the show, I suppose I should explain. This show is not about talking fast. It's not about trying to sell you something. It's not about trying to convey an idea or push a religion or a non-religion onto people. It's about taking it easy like a Sunday morn. And it's supposed to be uploaded Sunday morning my time. However, I realise this is not always possible. Well, it is possible, but it's not always the case. And I'm going to need new computers. I'm going to need possibly an MP3 player. I don't need that right now, but I think if I want to record stuff on the fly and not really have to worry about so much editing and things like that, I could just find a cafe somewhere and then record for like half an hour or whatever. That would be a lot better. But if you're interested in helping with that, the details of how to do that will be later on in the show. I'm not mercenary. I'm not going to beg people for help and things like that just yet. Not at 3 minutes into the show, no. Thank you very much once again. So the idea is basically to take a bit of a slow down approach. And you can listen to this podcast any day of the week. Some people listen to it just to unwind before they go to bed, because this should be released on either Saturday nights, if I do it correctly, Saturday nights, or Sunday nights, depending on when I upload the show. So just sit back, relax. You've got nothing to do. You've got nowhere to be for the next half an hour, because we're going to unwind, we're going to de-stress, we're going to take it really, really slowly. Now, you're probably wondering why I've called this show Bigger Than Bigfoot. Now, I have to explain my position on Bigfoot. I love Bigfoot. I love the mythology behind Bigfoot. I actually love the mythology itself. I love the romanticism. I love the idea of camping in a tent in the woods, in the forests, somewhere in the United States, maybe Canada. I don't know where these things are mostly reported to be seen. Basically in bear country, really. And to be out there the possibility of maybe hearing their cries. Ooh, maybe hearing those cries, maybe smelling the smell of the skunk ape, or maybe just, if I'm lucky, getting a blurry photo of the elusive beast. But that's the romantic idea of Bigfoot. I don't believe in Bigfoot personally, but here's the reality of the situation. Here is the real science behind something that is bigger than Bigfoot. If you've got Google open, and I suggest you have Google open when you listen to the show, I have done for the last several shows, please Google the following. The word is Gigantopithicus. Gigantopithecus. So it's G-I-G. Are you typing? Gigantopithecus. Gigantopithecus. Once again, for those of you typing, Gigantopithecus. Now, if you didn't type that, that's fine. There's no guilt. There's no dramas. Because I will tell you what you will find. When you Google Gigantopithecus, you will find several links. One of them is to a Wikipedia page. I discovered this little creature, little being the operative word, and not being, well, it's more sarcastic than anything, from another podcast called Dogma Debate, and that is a scientific atheistic show, but I'm not going to talk about religion here, or non-religion, or try and push any agendas there, but they were talking about this creature that was bigger than Bigfoot. It is estimated to be 9 to 12 feet tall, over 1,700 pounds. Excuse me, my throat's really dry. The weather's been really, really hot here, and really not humid, but it's enough to dehydrate you very quickly. I've done 3 of these podcasts already, and none of them saved, and none of them worked, so I've had to start again from scratch. Okay, ignore that. It looked like an orangutan, more like an orangutan than it did a person. And they found the fossilized jawbone, and it's said to be 8 million years old. 1,700 pounds. So this thing is massive, 12 feet tall. But there's no reason to be scared. Judging by the teeth, it liked to chew bamboo and some of the harder forms of vegetation and things like that. So it was perfectly herbivore, no need to worry. So I'm nearly 9 minutes in, and I haven't talked about anything in particular, except for myself. I'm not calling myself a Bigfoot, by the way, but here we go. Now I do news and reviews and things like that, and movie reviews, and talk about memes and ideas, and I bust memes, things that are fake, things that people spread on Facebook that aren't true. And one news item I found funny was that Harper Lee, the author of To Kill a Mockingbird, over 50 years ago, has decided to write a sequel to her best-selling novel, and which turned into a film with Gregory Peck, who has since passed away. And I thought of a couple of sequel names: To Kill a Mockingbird versus Predator, To Kill a Mockingbird 2, Electric Boogaloo, To Kill a Mockingbird 2, Judgment Day, It's funny on Facebook. You have to admit. The meme buster for today is a meme that someone had put up. I listen to, I like a lot of meme groups on Facebook, and a lot of them refute things like anti-GMO, anti-genetically modified organisms, anti-vaccination of kids and things like this. And one of the things that upset me was there's a group called March Against Monsanto. And of course there's March for Monsanto that refutes that, and Millions for Monsanto and things like that. Now Monsanto has been demonized on the internet, and for no real good reason. They're actually a very, very good company. Yes, they had a hand in producing Agent Orange back in the 70s, and they also helped to produce Roundup, pesticides and things like that. But they are heavily invested in genetically modified seeds and things like that, but that's all they do. They only genetically modify seeds, nothing else, alright? Anyway, apparently the group March Against Monsanto they're actually promoting the anti-vaccination memes on Facebook, and it's the same sort of lie, and it's the same sort of crowd. They're promoting this lie. Now, for those of you who don't know, there was a measles outbreak in Disneyland. Or was it Disney World? I think it was Disneyland. And, you know, over 70 people have been affected by measles and had to go to hospital to get treatment because of the non-vaccination of children. Right? You need to vaccinate your children. However, I'm not going to push any agendas on this show. I'm not going to say, oh, yeah, you need to be doing this. However, I'll ask you the quick question. Why wouldn't you give yourself and your children the absolute best care, the best chance in life that you possibly could? And that's what this anti-vaccine movement's all about. It's all about cashing in on fear and all this sort of stuff. There's stuff about mercury being in vaccines and things like that. There may have been mercury at one point, but even at that point, it was so minuscule, it was not even worth worrying about. It's the dosage that makes the poison. You know, arsenic, for example, is a poison, but arsenic's also in broccoli. Broccoli is not a poison. It's because the arsenic levels are so minute that it's negligible. Right? You see? There's arsenic in rice, but you wash a lot of that arsenic, and once again the levels are negligible, but you'd wash it all out, because when you wash the rice, you wash all the white gluggy stuff away before you cook it. And the other thing was that Monsanto have actually developed vaccines for, or they're working on, a form of egg that has the allergens removed. So if you've stopped having vaccinations because you're allergic to egg, these guys have produced an egg-like substance that doesn't have any allergens in it. That's got to be good, right? Monsanto have also developed a form of rice that helps the human body develop much needed vitamin A, so it cures blindness and cataracts and things in some of these poorer countries. But there are people who are dead set against science and people moving forward. Why wouldn't you embrace the latest technology? You're using the latest technology to refute some of this stuff. It's insane, you know. Yeah, these are the people that they don't believe in the moon landing, right? but they're using the internet and computers and other technology that was invented as a result of the research that went into putting a man on the moon. Strange. The other thing that got my goat the other day was someone had uploaded a photo of a packet of peanut M&Ms. Now, this is not a sponsored ad. The photo of the M&Ms, peanut M&Ms packet, had halal and the halal certification and the kosher certification, and they didn't recognize the kosher symbol, but they were focusing on the halal symbol because they are anti-Muslim and all this sort of stuff, right? And you think, yeah, there's a lot of this boycott halal memes and things like that. So this is still part of meme busters as well. And halal just means permitted, right? So it just means, hey, this product does not have pork in it. And I don't want pork in my peanut M&Ms. I'm sure you don't either. And it just means that people who are Jewish or who are Muslim can eat these products. It does not mean anything at all, right? It's a non-issue. But the funny thing was, right, because I'm just laughing at this thing and, oh God, this guy's not all up, right upstairs, right? And you know, this guy does have a gun license too. It's quite scary. But the first comment on the picture was something along the lines of, "Oh, pretty soon you won't be allowed to call yourself an Australian either, mate." You know, and there's this thing of, "Oh, they'll censor you can't call yourself an Australian, otherwise you'd be considered racist or whatever." But the guy saying it, right, is Greek. And the reason I know he's Greek is he's got this massive soul patch on his chin, right? Very similar to my Facebook picture, right? But really wide, you know, like, it's Greek, mate, it's Greek. And his name, I'll have to change his surname, right? But his first name is Costa, with a K, Kosta. The surname is also Costa, Kosta. Costinimus, whatever, something Greek like that, right? And as a soul patch, I think it was. Yeah, and I'm thinking he's trying to complain. He was complaining about being Australian. Oh, you can't call yourself Australian. Thinking you couldn't get much more Greek if you tried. And I've got nothing against Greek people. I just think it's a bit funny to call yourself, if you identify with a country and a culture, I think it's a bit funny if you can't allow other people to do the same. I just think it's strange, especially if you know full well that you're a second generation immigrant. You know, like, it's just crazy, right? In science news, right, we'll move on. Science news, scientists have now got they've got functional brain tissue grown from stem cells. How awesome is that? So if you have a brain injury, they can transplant the brain tissue that is grown from stem cells. And I saw a photo the other day, which I didn't write the note down, but they've got a fully functioning heart grown from stem cells as well. Fantastic science, you know, it's amazing. What a time to be alive, hey? The other thing that got my goat was that I put something on Facebook about a neighbour playing the song "Suicide is Painless" for about 5 days in a row. It's been 5 days in a row now, but it was the third day in a row then. And I said that maybe he's subliminally trying to suggest something to me, right? "Suicide is Painless" is the theme tune to the TV show and the movie MASH, M-A-S-H. You Google it, you should be familiar with the show if you're not already. It's like a war drama set during the Korean War, but it aired during the 70s and basically was a send-up of the Vietnam War, but they'd set it in the Korean War so they could get away with a lot of stuff. And basically to say that war is hell and all the rest of it. But the attitude that people had was, oh, you should check on the neighbour, maybe he's suicidal. I think it wasn't the neighbour that was suicidal, it was me having to listen to the fact that the music was blaring through the wall, and I had no control over whether I had to listen to it or not, or whether it was going to be piped down into the microphone so that you guys had to hear it. So what do you think of that? And I don't know whether you can hear this or not. Okay, I'm just testing the mic levels. I'm using a different version today. Please bear with me. Okay, what have I got here? Okay, another quote that I picked up from another podcast. I think it was the Final Level Ice-T podcast. And he was saying that lawyers don't ask questions they don't know the answer to. So if you're in legal trouble and a lawyer starts asking you a question, like prosecutors, there's a good chance they already know the answers, right? So keep your story straight. What I'm talking about doing is talking a little bit about my personal life. I'm thinking of telling my story, and I don't know how many people would be interested in hearing that. Maybe you want to hear more news and science and that sort of stuff. I've been told that I shouldn't talk about my personal life online because it can come back and haunt me, but there are events in my life that sometimes cause triggers and flashbacks and things like that. And I've written a note down to basically tell my story and maybe air some of my grievances. But that is for another time. That's up for you guys to decide. What I'm going to do this year is talk about the small changes that I'm going to be making in my life, because I do need to get my fitness back on track. I need to lower my blood pressure, and it's only a little bit up. It's not overly high, but I want to get it right back down again. And one of the things I did was to say no to hamburgers, and that's been a really, really big change. And it's been okay so far, because I don't eat hamburgers all the time. It's just when I'm in the city, or if I see a case manager or something like that and I'm really stressed out about having to look for work and whatever, I might have a hamburger to calm my nerves and things like that. It became like a bit of a tradition, right? So I'm giving up the hamburgers. If someone shouts me something, then I'm probably not going to say no, but I might just sort of suggest maybe something else, but no hamburgers. And I did a video about it called The Last Hamburgers, and you can find that on YouTube if you look that up. And the other big one, the really, really, really big one, is giving up Chinese food. I've done this before, and it was something that I picked up from watching The Biggest Loser. Don't ever watch The Biggest Loser. I found out that the contestants on The Biggest Loser are actually fat-shamed and treated really badly. There's a lot of starvation and just terrible treatment. They're forced to exercise to the point of collapse. That's why they're crying on the show. They're being abused, and it's disgusting, and it's got to stop. But yeah, giving up Chinese. Because there's a lot of... Don't worry about MSG. There's nothing wrong with MSG. It's just another word for salt, right? But the local Chinese place, one of the local Chinese places, have these things called Thai chicken chops. And I'm going to do a video about them because they are laced with fat. Laced with fat. Absolutely delicious. Absolutely delicious. But I've got to give them up. I've got to give them up. I will do a video on them. And maybe I shouldn't. But I will. Just to let you know what I'm going through and things like that. What else have I written? That was the other thing. I was listening, just because I was listening to some motivational stuff, and something came up, the words came up, find your value. Find your value. And I'm thinking, this is why I'm at a bit of a loss. I'm out of work, I'm out of study, like I've graduated from university, and of course that doesn't lead to anything really, unless you're getting, HDs or the equivalent of like straight A's. And then they start to headhunt you and all this sort of stuff. And I was treated really badly in university, and I'll probably go into that in another podcast. Actually, I'll write that down. But yeah. What was I saying? Oh yeah. This is what happens when I record a live show. I'll lose my train of thought. I'll just jump tracks and talk about Star Wars until I get my thing back. I'm currently reading the comic book version of The Star Wars. Not Star Wars A New Hope, it's The Star Wars. It's the original rough draft screenplay by George Lucas. And initially he was only going to do one film, which then got split into three, which became the trilogy, and then he wrote like the prequel movies. And this contains bits and pieces of where he got the names from, the ideas and things like that. And I'm going to be reviewing that next week, so stay tuned for that. Little things like, there was an actor who played a character called Nien Nunb in Return of the Jedi. He's the pilot with Lando Calrissian on the Millennium Falcon, on the assault on the Death Star in Return of the Jedi, and he's got the slit sort of lip thing across his cheeks. It makes like a really funny noise and stuff. The actor who played him passed away yesterday, so that's rather tragic, and I wish his family the best. What was I talking about in regards to finding value? That was the other thing. Raise your standards. And I can't remember. I cannot remember for the life of me. Anyway, that's what happens when I go on a ramble, go on a rant. But I am going from notes. But I went off. Anyway, I've got 2 minutes of this left. I want to thank everybody for listening. If you do want to support the show for free, all you've got to do is click like or thumb up or add me to your favorites on whatever app that you're using, and click thumb up on YouTube, etc. Share this around with your friends if you like this, if you like what I'm doing, if you like my voice, please tell a friend. The other thing is that if you want to support me and make sure that I do not go through computer troubles in the future, if you want to guarantee that there's a show each and every week, because there was a 2-week hiatus, and I'm looking over at the laptop still spinning with the really even better, the best podcast I've ever done, sitting there unable to be saved or salvaged. If you want to save this show, keep it going, I have a Patreon account. So you just go to patreon.com, that's patreon.com/ELASM, and for 50p a month, right, 50p a month, $1 a month, you can keep this show going. So consider being a patron of the show. The contact details can be found by pressing the up arrow on the iHeartRadio network and in the show notes on the YouTube channel. Take it easy like a Sunday morn. Bye for now.